Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt is sponsored by the Marquardt Law Firm and does not attempt to solve your individual legal problems upon the basis of information contained herein. Instead, contact an attorney to discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your unique situation. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect the views of the Salem Media Group.
It's time for Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt. Todd Marquardt, attorney at law in Texas. If you're a millionaire or a thousandaire, Talk Law Radio is now on the air. Call in with your business law question, your elder law question, veteran aid, Medicaid, build a business to get paid. 210-308-8867. Or ask a question online at marquardtlawfirm.com. That's MARQUARDT lawfirm.com. And now it's Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt.
Welcome to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. Today we're thrilled to welcome special guest Taylor Richard, Area Vice President of Sales for Heart to Heart Hospice. She's going to be breaking down the highs, lows, and myths and questions you may have been too afraid to ask about hospice. Plus, she'll share her meaningful legacy about her family, whether you're navigating decisions now or want to understand hospice better. Listen up. First, we're going to talk to Joseph Warren about the financial focus. He's with Financial Planning HQ. Joseph and his team specialize in helping folks build a clear, confident path to their financial future. They use a process that is not about product sales or gathering assets to manage, but really giving the best advice possible to a select number of clients. Today's Financial Planning HQ Financial Focus with Joseph Warren is, are you making financial mistakes in retirement? Joseph, what's the first mistake you want to mention?
Yeah, today I want to go over 5 or 6 financial mistakes. And the question is, are you making these financial mistakes? So the number one financial mistake I want to start with is one of the smaller ones, but it can have a huge impact. And it's only having a vague idea of what you want your retirement to be like. So you kind of have like this vague idea of maybe I'll be on a beach, sipping some drinks or something, but not getting to the purpose and why behind your financial decisions and what you're doing. And that's why we're really adamant about the financial roadmap process. My father, Steve, my brother, Jacob, I have been talking about that process a lot. And I think it's funny because it's a hard process to describe. So I thought I would describe it with some of the processes that I saw early in my career. Yeah,
looks like you're going to give us the inside scoop of the financial industry. What are some of those processes that you saw?
Yeah, one of them that we really didn't like was kind of like fear-based. And it started with highlighting a problem and then asking questions and really drilling down into that problem. So say someone was paying a 1% fee for a financial product they didn't need, and it was $1 million in there. We would ask them, how much does that cost you? And they would say, that's $10,000 a year. Well, how much will that cost you over 20 years? That's $200,000. And with compound interest, if you could invest that, how much would that be worth? $500,000. That really never resonated with us. It was kind of like guilt tripping. But that was one process that we were taught early on. I remember in a conference room nearby the airport here by a big financial company for how to run a discovery meeting, was really hone in on the problem and make people feel bad about it.
Well, that is a lot of money.
Yeah, it definitely is. And we want to stop people from making mistakes and save them money. But we believe in an inspirational approach. And that's why we use the financial roadmap, where instead of being about us and our credentials and our years of experience, it's really about the client. So we don't talk about our why. We like to say we really want to dig deep and see what the client's why is. What do they want to achieve with their money? What impact do they want to have? What legacy do they want to leave? What are those guiding principles that they have when it comes to making decisions with their money? We start there instead of talking about the market and other things. Then we drill down on your goals and what's important to you. And then we look at the numbers.
Right.
Instead of just, thinking that people are just numbers as well. That's another process I saw where it was just all about how much do you have in life insurance? How much do you have in a 401k? We need to know your numbers, but that's the last step that we do. And then if it makes sense, we make an offer to help you make that financial roadmap, that vision, a reality.
Well, that's a real personalized approach. What's another mistake people make in retirement, planning for retirement?
Yep. I think one is just not having a clear plan for that transition where you're taking, years of paychecks. All your life, you've had steady paychecks coming in, and you're having to create a paycheck off of your assets. So really turning your savings and investments into a reliable and safe retirement paycheck that's optimized for taxes and is going to last you for the rest of your life. Now, we have a proprietary software that we use for this. We run many different scenarios. But really what it comes down to is there's a lot of factors in there that people sometimes miss. There's IRMA limits. There's Roth conversions. Each year is an opportunity to do Roth conversions. There's the taxation of Social Security. All these different things, and I don't want to overwhelm people, but our clients don't want to deal with that. Our clients are people who really just want us to worry about the chaos behind the scenes and come to them and say, this is the best course of action to make for your retirement paycheck this year. This is the best course to make in future years. Here's how we're going to set this up. Go enjoy your life. Spend time with your grandkids. Go on the beach if that's what you want to do. But really, that's what we're about.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt discussing retirement mistakes with Joseph Warren with Financial Planning HQ. What are some other financial mistakes people make when planning for retirement?
I see this one a lot. You may be able to relate, but taking disjointed advice from multiple sources. Sometimes I'll have people come and, they saw a YouTube video about Social Security, and it's good advice in general for maybe like the masses, but it doesn't really make sense for their situation. Sometimes I'll see people say, and then sometimes it's just fear-based, like I'm going to take it at 62, even though I have longevity in my family, because I think it's going to run out of money. Mm-hmm. While it's true that there are issues with it, in the past, they've always come together and come to some sort of compromise. And usually it's not the retirement age people who pay for it. It's the people who don't vote, the younger people.
One of my favorite sayings is don't believe everything you think.
Exactly.
Some of my clients, they like to get advice from multiple people, and then they do the analysis themselves.
Yeah.
But they could be missing some of those things that they don't know about that you just mentioned.
Yeah. I think there's a proverb, there's wisdom in many different advisors, but I think what we want to do is take all that information and make it into a clear strategy so you know exactly what you need to do. And then we take into account everything. So the reason it's not, you don't want to take disjointed advice, and what we do that differs from that is we get a team of experts, the best CPAs possible, money managers who have really good returns and do a great job. And we get them all together, and they have input on the plan, but it's just one coherent plan. There's no conflicted advice. There's no one person saying, don't do a Roth conversion because you have to pay taxes this year, and one person saying, be aggressive with them. Mm-hmm. It's one strategy. You know exactly what to do. At the end of the day, it's about what the clients came to us wanting. They want peace of mind. They want security, and they want to live life on their terms. So
yeah, it's like the old saying that every problem that a carpenter can solve is with a hammer.
Yep.
And so you have a financial planner and a CPA thinking the same way. You might have to remind them of what the client's goals are.
Yeah.
That doesn't follow my client's goals, so let's come up with another idea that does.
Yeah. And it's rare for everyone's financial professionals to even know the goals. Some skip over it. Mm-hmm. Some are just like, I'm going to give you this life insurance policy, but maybe I don't need to know your long-term goals. But we make sure every professional knows your goals and that everything's aligned, because we believe everything is interrelated when it comes to finances.
Awesome. I've seen things like that before in my estate planning practice. Sometimes people have ideas that make sense by themselves, but don't really fit their situation.
Yep.
And that's what you were just talking about.
Yeah. That reminds me of a big mistake, which is not having your estate planning done, which is surprisingly common. But even when people have it done, sometimes we'll notice their beneficiaries are either out of date or don't align with their estate plan. I think you told me the story, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was you, but about somebody who never updated their beneficiaries, and when they passed away, instead of their money going to his kids, it went to his ex-wife. And that's years of hard work, building generational wealth, going outside of the family because you didn't do a simple form.
Yeah, if your estate plan is your beneficiary designation, it would make sense to be focused on that.
Yeah.
An estate plan, like any plan, can be out of date and not address the problem it's intended to solve, because circumstances change, and so plans need to change.
Definitely.
What's the absolute biggest mistake people make in retirement in less than 30 seconds?
Not calling me at 210-444-2128. No, I'm just kidding. It's not having a clear, coherent strategy for every aspect of your finances. It's really just, thinking that these things aren't interrelated. So it's important to have a clear strategy so you can achieve what you want to achieve. I think of clients who used to come to me stressed, and now they've retired earlier than intended, and they come to me joking around, having fun, just from being with their grandchildren, spending all day taking care of them.
Yeah.
And that's their stress now, instead of worrying about whatever reports they had to get done at work or whatever their job was. So really, if you want to save time and make great decisions with your money, call me at 210-444-2128. We're accepting 2 new clients in August, and we'd love to speak with you. 210-444-2128.
We got to take a break. We'll be right back. Are you confident about your financial future? What if you had a clear financial roadmap and a team holding you accountable to make the best financial decisions no matter what? At Financial Planning HQ, Steve and his sons, Joseph and Jacob, have been helping San Antonio families since 1987 with inspiring, intelligent financial strategies. Whether it's achieving or maintaining financial independence, becoming more tax efficient, or building business wealth, we create a comprehensive, written lifetime financial strategy that's uniquely yours, based entirely on what's important to you. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Call Financial Planning HQ today at 210-685-2722. That's 210-685-2722. And take the first step towards financial clarity. That's Financial Planning HQ, inspiring financial strategies for San Antonio. Remember, 210-685-2722. Losing a loved one is hard. I'm Todd Marquardt, and I help families like yours navigate probate with clarity and compassion. Don't go through it alone. Call 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278. Or visit marquardtlawfirm.com to get answers and peace of mind. Do it before you die.
9:30 a.m. The Answer.
We're thrilled to welcome Taylor Richard, Area Vice President of Sales for Heart to Heart Hospice, to talk about the highs, the lows, the myths, and the questions you might be afraid to ask about hospice. Taylor has a bachelor's of science degree in allied health, an MBA in healthcare management, and years of experience in businesses helping seniors, the elderly, and those suffering from illness and disability. Before we dive into the myths about hospice, tell us how you became so passionate about it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here this morning. So initially, I started working in senior living for my career. Spent a couple of years working in a hospital prior to my full-time career in senior living. And working in senior living, you are exposed to hospice all of the time. I worked for a wonderful organization that offered all levels of care. So we had everything from independent living all the way to skilled nursing. And whenever people move into independent living or even assisted living, they're not thinking about hospice, but it should always be part of the conversation because you're only going to continue getting older and in turn a little bit weaker and a little bit sicker most of the time. And it's just so hard if you haven't had that conversation previously to just introduce it when the time is right. So I would always start that earlier hospice conversation with my residents. And then additionally to that, one of my very best friends, she battled cancer from the age of 15 until we were 22, eventually going on hospice services. And so it was a very tough situation before she passed, but hospice allowed her to make final trips that she wanted to do free of pain or minimizing her pain throughout her last days.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Well, this is Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here with Taylor Richard, Area Vice President of Sales for Heart to Heart Hospice. Let's talk about some of the myths.
Yes, there are many.
Myth number 1, hospice means giving up hope.
Absolutely not. So we're just shifting hope and shifting the focus from maybe curative to supportive measures whenever someone comes onto hospice services. What does hope look like for you? Does that look like more time with your loved ones? Does that look like another trip to the beach? How can we make that hope be comfortable for you and supportive for you and your loved ones?
Great. Here's another one. Hospice is only for the last days or only for cancer patients.
Very common myth and misconception. I know even with some of my own family members that I've discussed hospice with, they think that somebody has gone to hospice and they're never coming back. And oh my gosh, they've already been there for 3 months. That seems like a long time for hospice. So the hospice benefit is actually intended for people with a life expectancy of 6 months or less if the disease runs its normal prognosis and is not seeking curative measures or curative treatment. So you may have somebody that has end-stage renal failure and they don't want to continue to go to dialysis 3, 4, or 5 days a week. They just want to live out their remaining days. They would be very appropriate for hospice services. You also have somebody like in the instance my friends or in senior living and memory cares where someone's living with an Alzheimer's diagnosis or dementia diagnosis. We know there's no cure for that. We know that that resident or patient's going to continue to decline. So let's get them that additional hospice services ahead of a couple of days of their passing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How about hospice is a place you go to?
Another big myth. I know we hear it all the time, especially in the San Antonio area right now, in a couple of different markets, but especially in our Houston and then Fort Worth, Dallas area and San Antonio, we actually have an inpatient hospice house. So most people think about hospice as inpatient hospice, like in the movies. You go to hospice, you never come back, you pass away there. It's so different. So hospice is actually a service that is offered wherever somebody calls home. And with that, it may be in their RV in their campground. It may be in their physical house. It may be in the hospital or hospice house setting. And so depending on the patient's level of care and care need is where we offer that support and care.
Okay, well, we are live on the air in Houston on 1070 AM and 103.3 FM. If you're listening right now in Houston and you have questions about hospice that you want answers to right now from Taylor Richard, give us a call at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. We're going through hospice myths, and the next one is hospice hastens death. They just give morphine to speed things up.
That is very true. You know, depending on,
It's
very
not
true that it's a myth. It is not true. It's very true that people think that. So, you know, we are depending on someone's beliefs. You know, we don't have the world in our hands. We don't get to play Jesus or God, and we never know when a patient's last day is going to be. The point of hospice is to introduce comfort into the patient and help them not live in pain, whatever that looks like. And so hospice is not there to speed anything up. There's no, the dosages of medicines that we give are not going to speed up any type of passing. Even the types of medicines that we give don't do that. And so the intention is that we just help make that patient comfortable. The disease is going to run its normal course no matter what we do. So if we can instead have our nursing team, our social work team, our physicians, and spiritual care coordinators involved in that process, it can make their time that they do have left on earth much more comfortable for them.
Right, and there's regulations, and Texas policy doesn't support euthanasia, so that's not going to happen.
Absolutely. It will not. We are very well regulated, and we also work with hospice educated physicians as well as our nursing team and do ongoing education about what is appropriate and truly what medication may work for pain management for one patient doesn't always work for others. And that being said, too, patients have the right to accept or refuse any sort of medication on their treatment plan that they want. So there's oftentimes that we work with patients that choose not to utilize morphine, even if it is appropriately prescribed for them, just because it's not something that they believe in. And so we absolutely shift our pain management strategies to what works for that patient and their loved ones.
Awesome. Okay, here's another myth about hospice. You have to stop seeing your regular doctors and give up all other treatment.
Another big myth. A lot of people think that whenever we get to hospice, it's like we're turning the water faucet off. All the medications stop, all the doctor's visits stop, and everything like that. And that's not the case. What we want to do is consolidate everything. We want to make it an easier process for our patients because most of the time when someone's on hospice, they don't want to go out to the ER for unmanaged pain and symptoms and things like that. So we do offer that support in home. However, all of that support is related to the patient's terminal diagnosis. They, if they would like to, can still go see specialists if it's unrelated to their terminal diagnosis as well. In addition to that, some of our patients actually choose, and this is for any hospice, but choose to keep their primary care physician as their attending physician. So you have the right when you're on hospice care to continue to be followed by your regular physician that you've been seeing. I know a lot of times with seniors, we see patients who have been seeing a doctor for 20 plus years and they don't want to switch to another doctor just because
Right.
they're end of life. And so that physician, if they're in agreement, can continue to follow and be that attending physician as well through that hospice process.
Okay, that's very comforting. Like you said, they have a personal relationship with that person.
Yes.
Okay, here's another myth. We're talking about myths on Talk Law Radio, myths about hospice with Taylor Richard, who is area vice president of sales for Heart to Heart Hospice, which has offices in Dallas, Houston.
Dallas, Houston, here in the San Antonio area, we actually span all the way across most of the eastern portion of Texas, as well as some additional states as well. That being said, something super special is we are still privately held by the same gentleman that founded us. So the area that I usually work with is all along our Hill Country corridor. Our offices in Temple, Austin, San Marcos, San Antonio, and Pearsall, but we have great team members spread throughout the state.
Okay, so speaking of that, if somebody needs information or is curious and they call the main line, what should they expect?
Absolutely. So they should typically be expected to be connected to either our intake coordinator or one of our community education representatives. So those team members will connect with the person that's inquiring for information to understand a little bit more about what the need is. Do they just need general information on hospice care? Do they have a loved one in mind where they want to start that hospice conversation? From there, our team will set up a phone or in-person meeting, whatever works best for the caller, and get the information that they need. And if they do decide that they want to move forward with hospice services, we'll talk them through what next steps look like as far as an evaluation and then admission to hospice services if appropriate.
Okay, here's another myth. Hospice isn't covered. It's expensive, or you need a DNR first.
Big myth. So twofold there. As far as hospice not being covered or it's expensive, hospice is actually covered fully by both Medicare and Medicaid. The hospice benefit is something that patients have access to. It's also covered by most commercial insurances as well for hospice care. So when somebody is appropriate for hospice care and comes on service, typically they are not seeing anything out of pocket, especially as it relates to hospice care. And then as far as the DNR goes, most people think that if you're electing hospice, you have to have a do not resuscitate order in place. That is not true. We do want to make sure that your goals of care are aligned with that hospice philosophy and you're not seeking aggressive treatment, but you may not want a DNR in place because you want to make sure that you get to your daughter's wedding in December. You have some other things going on, or maybe you're still coming to terms with your diagnosis and you just need some time before you choose to implement a DNR. And that's absolutely okay. You shouldn't have to wait for hospice just because you don't have a DNR in place.
Right. They're not going to tell you what to do.
No, absolutely not. It's always the patient's choice.
Okay, well, this is Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here with Taylor Richard, Area Vice President of Sales with Heart to Heart Hospice, talking about myths about hospice. Stay tuned for the next segment because you're not going to want to miss what's going on in California. Before we go to break, though, I wanted to ask, why would somebody choose Heart to Heart Hospice over another hospice provider?
Very good question. And I definitely chose coming to work for Heart to Heart as opposed to other providers as well. But as I mentioned just a little bit ago, Heart to Heart is still privately held by the same gentleman, Kelly Mitchell, who founded us in 2003. So to me, that longevity of our team and leadership really speaks towards the organization and the care that we provide. Many of our staff are very tenured. I know just throughout my offices that I have the pleasure of working with, we have even aides that have been here for over 15 years, which is wonderful. We're also partnered with the Heart to Heart Hospice Foundation, and our Heart to Heart Hospice Foundation focuses on education to the community about kind of when hospice is appropriate, as well as support for specific diseases such as Alzheimer's care, but also focuses on supporting any of our patients' needs. So I know one thing that we see often in Texas is we have people who are in homes that maybe don't have working air conditioning, and it's 100 degrees here. That's not a safe or comfortable environment for someone to be in their last months of life. So our social work team actually works through grants with the foundation to do things like maybe put a window unit in to make sure their home's comfortable. So it's just wonderful and unique to us. There's a whole host of things with our inpatient unit as well, but could go on forever about that. Heart to Heart's very special.
Awesome. I can see the passion in your eyes. This is Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here with Taylor Richard talking about hospice. Stay tuned. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the sinners and the saints.
Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt is sponsored by the Marquardt Law Firm and does not attempt to solve your individual legal problems upon the basis of information contained herein. Instead, contact an attorney to discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your unique situation. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect the views of the Salem Media Group.
Martin Luther, the famous theologian who nailed his 95 Theses to the church door, said we're all sinners and saints. But because of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, we're saved and absolved. This is Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here with Taylor Richard from Heart to Heart Hospice. We're going to talk about some present day sinners and saints.
There's a lot going on right now.
I love that song.
Wonderful.
Mighty Fortress is our God. So the sinner this week are people who formed fraudulent hospice companies in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Daily Times reported that in 2018, the Department of Public Health in California went to the legislature and asked for legislation to allow third-party organizations to evaluate applications for licenses for hospice companies. Under California Senate Bill 1495, hospices could be evaluated by these third-party providers, and that was to alleviate a backlog of 72 applications. Well, the unintended consequence was that these third-party organizations now had a financial incentive to sign off on as many hospice companies as they could. Here's what Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert Kennedy Jr. had to say to the House Ways and Means Committee.
So now you've got all of these problems, and I'll give you one example. Hospices in Los Angeles. We've shut down 500 of them. We have not gotten one call from a congressperson or one call from a patient. Why? Because those hospices did not exist.
Okay, Taylor, it appears as if the problem of fraudulent hospice companies started when the law allowed hospice startup companies to apply to a third-party vendor instead of California Department of Health. What kind of compliance with Texas regulations does Heart to Heart have that you're aware of?
Absolutely. So we absolutely comply with Medicare and Medicaid guidelines. So those are set forth, of course, by the government and means that we are accepting appropriate patients onto our services. Additionally, in our physical sites, we keep them staffed. We've actually had an inspector at one point in time come up and just make sure we had our correct license on the wall and we are where we say we were because of the concerns that can be seen across the United States as well. And then being a larger organization, we actually work with a very large team at our home office, but including our chief compliance officer and teams that make sure that we are following all of the regulations and doing hospice right. Because with hospice, you don't get a do-over. So if you have patients that have signed up with a hospice that may not truly be real or can't support all the requirements that a hospice is supposed to provide as regulated by the government, the only person that really loses at the end of the day is the patient and their loved ones that should have had access to that appropriate level of care and their hospice benefit.
Yeah, that's really an important distinction. I saw a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, where a lady said that the hospice nurse would come intermittently, and it seemed like that she wasn't getting her bandage changed often enough, that she would only come when more medication was required. And so what should people be asking when evaluating hospice companies? Because I think some people just get a referral from the hospital. What should they ask?
Yes. So there's actually a list of questions that we like to educate families on, because if you have the time to choose a hospice, I always encourage others to choose 2 or 3 that could be fits and interview them and see if the answers align with your goals for hospice. Because while we all are regulated by the same agency, every hospice does it a little bit different. So one thing that you may want to ask is this hospice CHAP accredited? So this is an additional education or accreditation process that hospices can choose to participate in, and basically says, like, yes, you are operating in an elevated level of care and service and under these regulations to provide appropriate hospice care. You'd also like to ask when they were founded. To me, one big thing, especially with my background being in nonprofit senior living, is are they privately or publicly held? Are the offices franchised out, or do they have one singular home office that the organization works with? you want to ask about the frequency of nursing and care visits. And truth be told, no hospice should be able to give you an exact frequency unless they've done an evaluation or are doing an admission of your loved one, because everything is based upon medical necessity of a patient. We may visit one patient with a nursing visit twice a week, but there may be another patient that needs a nursing visit daily if they're getting close to that end of life period and they need better pain management and things like that. So also asking, how do you determine how to increase or decrease the frequency of our clinical team visits is something very important to ask whenever you are interviewing hospice services. And then potentially, where is your closest office? Because while hospice offices are spread out, because hospice is offered wherever somebody calls home, you want to know if you're going to have a nurse or an aide have a 45-minute response time to you or a 3-hour and 45-minute response time to you
Wow.
if something's going on.
Yeah. So you mentioned this elevated level of accreditation. What was that called again?
Yes, it is. CHAP is the acronym for it. And so you can
CHAP?
CHAP. Yes.
Okay. And the list of questions that you mentioned, do you have that on a handout that you can send out to the listeners?
We do. We absolutely do. And it is pretty much a list of about 20 questions that we recommend people ask when they're interviewing hospices. I'd be glad to share that.
And how can they get that? Who should they call or email to get that?
Yes, y'all can actually message our Facebook page at Heart to Heart Hospice of San Antonio, or you can call us directly at 210-824-4113. That's 210-824-4113.
Okay, great. So, as far as the saint goes, who would you like to recognize today as a saint because of the good work that they do?
Yes. So it was very hard thinking about this because truly all of our team that works, that I work alongside is incredible, especially our sales and marketing community education representatives, because their goal every day is to bring joy to residents when we're in buildings, but also to bring that education on hospice services to the community and in turn families and patients. But someone that really stands out to me is someone I've had the pleasure of knowing for the last 3 years. Her name is Jade. She's a community education representative with us in the San Antonio area and is also an LVN. So she's been a hospice nurse for over 20 years.
Wow.
Comes from a legacy of hospice nurses with her
Wow.
mom and her grandmother as well.
Never heard that before.
I know. She's incredible. She knew that was why she wanted to get into nursing. But one thing that's really special is whenever she works with any of our patients and she's having that hospice conversation, they've elected hospice services, especially if they are inpatient in the hospital or are going to our hospice house in the medical center to transition through the end of this life, is she keeps an ink pad with her with some small squares of paper. And as long as the family approves, of course, she takes the thumbprints of our patients and creates them into a heart on the paper. And this gesture allows her to create one for as many family members as they need or are going to be there, and helps them have that lasting memento with them. And not only that, but she has set the example for the hospitals and then for others on our team to create these little fingerprint kits where they have a little ink pad, they have these small squares of paper, and they are able to do that whether someone is face to face with Jade or whether they just at the hospital know that someone is getting to the end of their life and this would be a special memento for their family to carry on.
How special is that?
Very special.
That's cool. Some people receiving hospice care are unconscious or sleepy from the pain medication. Others are more alert. I'm aware that hospice providers ask about the do not resuscitate question and directive to physicians' documents. Do they ask about other end of life, get your affairs in order kind of things?
Very important. So we do try and incorporate that into every single conversation that we have. As far as last will and testament goes, that's not something that we're legally required to ask like we are for medical and durable power of attorney and out of hospital DNR. But we actually have a social worker on staff. We have lots on staff, but every patient and their loved ones are assigned a social worker. And so even if we don't learn that from our initial conversation, that is something that our social workers are working with the patients and their loved ones on to make sure that everything is set up for success and for an easy passing for them. I know sometimes the patients have stress if maybe they haven't finished a last will and testament, or they want to make sure that their daughter is going to be taken care of of after they pass away. And our social workers can help make sure that our patient does have their affairs in order. If it's something that's appropriate for the social worker to handle, they certainly will. And if it's not, then they will absolutely refer out to local professionals like you.
Okay. So we mentioned hospice nurse, hospice social worker. Who else is part of the team?
So we have an interdisciplinary team, of course, with the nurse and the social worker. We also have CNAs, or our certified nurse aides. They assist with activities of daily living. So hygiene, grooming, showering. Sometimes that looks like a bed bath. Sometimes that looks like freshening up. And sometimes it looks like a full on shower. We also have a spiritual care coordinator as well. And they're not set with any denomination. So I know in this area, we do work with a lot of Christians. And so we talk about Jesus and God and things like that. But some people may be agnostic or even atheist. And that spiritual care coordinator just helps them work through their feelings about grief and passing and things they may feel that way. We also have a volunteer coordinator that works to assign volunteers for companionship for our patients if they're interested. And then, of course, our hospice medical director that oversees our interdisciplinary team.
Okay. If you're interested in volunteering, call Heart to Heart. What would the number be?
Yes, it is 210-824-4113. We are always looking for volunteers who have a heart for serving others, and you only have to commit a minimum of about 30 minutes per week.
Are you 100% confident that no matter what happens in the financial markets, economy, or world events, you will achieve your financial goals? If not, we have a process to get your financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever. Your financial future shouldn't be a guessing game. Planning, advice, organization, and accountability are deliverables you should expect. For over 35 years, Financial Planning HQ has been San Antonio's trusted partner for comprehensive written lifetime financial strategies. Steve and his team, including sons Joseph and Jacob, don't believe in a one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, they create a personalized financial roadmap for you based on what's important to you. As an independent registered investment advisor, they're not tied to any big corporation's products. They work for you, creating inspiring, intelligent financial strategies that put your interests first. Call Financial Planning HQ at 210-685-2722. That's 210-685-2722. Losing a loved one is hard. I'm Todd Marquardt, and I help families like yours navigate probate with clarity and compassion. Don't go through it alone. Call 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278. Or visit marquardtlawfirm.com to get answers and peace of mind. Do it before you die.
9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Legacy can be defined as a family heirloom passed down, an inherited house or retirement account, or the family values learned from those who have gone before us. This is Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here with Taylor Richard with Heart to Heart Hospice, and we're going to talk about legacy.
Absolutely. So,
And now it's time
Here
for
we
the
go.
Talk Law Radio Legacy Spotlight. What's your legacy? Sponsored by Marquardt Law Firm.
Taylor, Marquardt Law Firm sponsors the Legacy segment on Talk Law Radio, and attorneys at Marquardt Law Firm are focused on business and estate law, including last wills, living trusts, and tax-protected inheritance plans. It's all about legacy.
so important.
What does legacy mean to you?
Yes. So legacy is definitely something special, something that I want to be able to maybe be not only remembered for when I'm gone, but something that others can take with me whenever I am gone. And as far as a legacy for me, I've been very blessed in that most of my family members that I'm close to are still with us here on this earth. So both sets of grandparents, aunts, uncles, parents, everything like that. So I don't have anything tangible that I have been left yet as a legacy. I really do have my eye on my Nana's china, though. She knows that. It's beautiful. It's brown and white. But I would love to talk about a legacy that my husband and I are creating for our children to carry with them.
Okay.
And so working in hospice and senior care, oftentimes you see people that don't have near as much time or didn't make the most of their time on earth. You never really know how much time that you have. So really giving our children the legacy of time with us. And so what we've done is we have created a Saturday night tradition, our cuddle movie night tradition, and all of our littles are under 4 years old right now. So this is something that we really hope that they are going to carry with them throughout their years, even whenever they maybe come back from college or from work or with their own families on Saturday night. So every Saturday night before bedtime, we get comfy PJs on, we get all of our snacks together. Right now, because everybody's so young, we pile up in our bed. I'm sure we'll have to shift to the loft or the living room at some point in time, but we turn on a Disney movie and we cuddle, and it's just the time that we get together to spend together as a family. And no matter how busy the week has been, my husband's a first responder as a firefighter paramedic, so there's times he is away from us, from the family. And so this is just a time for us to reset and have dedicated, intentional time together, and want to make sure that our children get to carry on like the gift of intentional time that we have given them, but also be very intentional with their time that they spend with others.
I love that. That's very unique because most of the time people are telling me what assets they want to leave.
Right.
And you're spot on that time is the one thing you can't really get back.
No, you can't get it back. And, it's easy to get caught in the day-to-day of everything. And suddenly, the day's gone by, the week or the year has gone by. And what did you do? What do you have to show for it? So just trying to be extra intentional with that.
What I like to talk to my kids about are movies that I saw that they should include in their collection.
That's
Do
awesome.
you ever do that? Play an old Disney movie?
We do, absolutely. So I'm trying to work on Lizzie McGuire, and Camp Rock just came back out in a few of those. But actually, most of the movies that we select are the old version of The Lion King. Last night was Peter Pan, even though it wasn't Saturday, but we'll see what we pick tonight. 101 Dalmatians is another popular one. And then we sprinkle in some of the newer ones, of course, like Frozen is always loved by the children.
Yeah, I remember watching that with my daughter. Another topic that I like to talk about is the ethical will. And it goes back to biblical times. And in Genesis 49, this is where Jacob sort of gave ethical gifts to his children. And Joseph is my favorite. He was God's favorite too, and so that's one that I want to talk about now. Jacob's will for Joseph teaches that faithfulness through suffering brings the greatest blessing. Joseph didn't seek any prominence. He remained faithful to God and to his duties, even in captivity and false accusation. His character, his integrity, his refusal to sin, his trust in God earned him Jacob's highest blessing. So that's definitely not me or any of my kids, but it's a great model to live after. And I think that it's something that parents could do for their kids is not only am I leaving you the house or this bank account, but this is what I hope that you will achieve by receiving it.
Absolutely. And I'm a big believer that if you do good, good is going to come back to you. So if you live life as a good human, then whatever is going to follow, whether that is money or the homes or the things that others would leave those good values and those good intentions, and the rest will come.
Amen. Okay, so we're on Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. This is Taylor Richard, Area Vice President of Sales for Heart to Heart Hospice. We've been talking about hospice myths, hospice sinners, hospice saints, but I want to switch gears here.
Sure
Talk
thing.
more about you.
Absolutely.
One of my former guests of Talk Law Radio, Melody Smith, a good friend of mine, managed a Pilates studio at the Dominion and opened a new location in Bernie. So when I saw Pure Barre on your resume, I asked her about it. She wasn't familiar with the details. Can you explain it?
Yes, I can. You'll see my face light up. I absolutely love Pure Barre. So Pure Barre, it is a franchised out organization. It is a low impact workout, and it's a bar class is essentially what it is. So I started as a client actually at Pure Barre College Station in 2018 whenever they opened, and after moving to the San Antonio area, came to Pure Barre New Braunfels where I actually have the opportunity to be an instructor there.
Well, this is confusing for a guy.
It
I
is.
mean, because when I think of a bar class, I think of this.
Sadly, it is not, unless it is our Friday afternoon class, because then it's a little bit of both.
So give us the remedial details.
Yes, so it is a physical exercise class. They're about 45 to 50 minutes, and it is a low impact, high intensity workout. So it is absolutely wonderful for people, any people, but especially those that maybe have had recent injuries, need to strengthen their joints. Maybe they're older and you shouldn't be doing this CrossFit, jumping up on 10 feet boxes and throwing medicine balls around. Great for strengthening, but the class is broken up into a few different segments, but focusing on strengthening your thighs and then your seat or your behind and then your abdominals. And with that, it is to music. So the entire class is music. There's not much talking. You're not running through like a boot camp, high-fiving everybody or anything like that. But it has been the workout that I have stuck with over the last, 8 years.
Wow. So why is it called Pure Barre?
Well, we have a bar along the wall, like a ballet bar. So
Oh, okay. Melody did say
Yes.
something about ballet.
And it's it depending on where you go. So different franchises that offer bar classes, they're all going to be a little bit different. Some a little more ballet based than others. I would say, having done some dance but not a ton of dance, is that Pure Barre isn't necessarily overly ballet based, but it is absolutely movements that are set to music. So it helps my little cheerleader heart inside whenever we do that. But think if you've gone to maybe a Pilates class or a Payo class, and if you were to speed that up a little bit and do it to the beat of music, that is what you could expect from a Pure Barre class.
Okay.
You can come.
Back when I was growing up, I would see on TV Sweating to the Oldies.
Yes, and we do have some themed days before. We haven't done a themed one of that, but we'll do 80s dress up days. We did a Barbie bar class as well, so we all dressed up as different Barbies when the Barbie movie came out. So it's a whole lot of fun.
Cool. Okay, well, I want to say a prayer before we run out of time. Dear God, thank you for this day, for all the blessings that you provide, and for an insightful discussion about hospice with Taylor Richard. Please comfort those who are nearing the end of their lives, and for their families and friends who grieve. Help us to remember that you are here with us, even as we suffer and grieve. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for joining us on Talk Law Radio.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And then quick little shout out to my little one who is watching. Hi, Charlie. I love you too.
Okay, I want to give you the last minute or so to talk to people. What is something that they need to know?
Absolutely. So a whole lot of things, but I would say overall, it is never too early to start the conversation about hospice. So even if you've been diagnosed with a terminal disease and you are wanting to seek curative treatment, keep hospice in the back of your mind, because if you ever need it, you want to be able to make that decision for yourself. Sometimes we work with families who know that they may be passing in 1 to 2 years, but know that they have a degenerative disease of the brain. And so they actually interview hospices with their families while they're of sound mind, so they know if and when the time comes for hospice, who they should elect. Another thing that's super important to know, we were talking about DNRs earlier, but a do not resuscitate order, there are 2 different ones in the state of Texas. So there is one that is in hospital and there is one that is an out of hospital DNR. And if you elect to be a do not resuscitate or have a do not resuscitate order, you also need to make sure that you have the Texas out of hospital DNR. You can find that online. You can Google Texas Health and Human Services out of hospital DNR. It is there. It has all of the instructions for you there, but to make sure sure that your wishes are carried out, if that's what you choose, by having that document completed. We run into people sometimes where they think they have one and they don't really have one, so
Right.
always want to make sure to educate on that.
Yeah, and it's a doctor's order, so it has to be signed by the doctor.
It does. So it will be signed by their doctor, and depending on if the patient's electing it themselves, there can be witnesses or the presence of a notary.
Right. It gets confused with directive to physicians. And so I've done classes on that. What are the
Yes.
differences? The directive to physician is where you can say you want to withhold or withdraw life support if you're in a terminal or irreversible condition, but it doesn't mean do not resuscitate.
Correct. Very correct.
So if you want more information on that, email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOST@talklawradio.com. I hope you had fun.
I did. Thank you for having me. It was great.
We'll talk to you later.
Most families don't realize they have hidden legal blind spots until it's too late. Wills, trust, Medicaid planning, even protecting a business. These are the kinds of issues attorney Todd Marquardt helps uncover before they become problems. Todd is the host of Talk Law Radio, where each week he guides listeners through the legal challenges families, veterans, and business owners face, while showing them the practical steps to protect what matters most. Catch Talk Law Radio, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, 6:30 a.m. The Word, and now in Houston on AM 1070 and 103.3 FM The Answer, or anytime on YouTube. Planning isn't just about documents. It's about peace of mind, security for loved ones, and building a legacy that lasts. Don't wait for a crisis. Do it before you die.